How y'all doing? We finally made it back. We appreciate everybody watching. Tonight we're going to do a show about the Salem witch trials, which I think has jinxed us because we've been trying to do this show for about 6 months or so now.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to get into subjects of witches and witchcraft in America and stuff like that. Uh, I guess the most famous thing is the Salem witch trials. That's pretty much where witchcraft is known from here in the beginning.
From here in the United States.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I want to say before we get started, I want to say hi everybody. If you are bothering to watch, thank you so much. Um, I've had a hard last week or so. So if my facts and figures are not correct, please forgive me. And you can also, Steve, can't they go to the side and type a comment in?
Yeah. I have a way of looking it up. I'm still trying to get used to this new thing, but yeah, I've got it. So I can look it up in front of me. So yeah.
Either way, so but yeah, we're talking about the witches and the Salem witch trials, but we need to, I think, go back to the witch trials in Europe
Okay.
because from what I have researched and what I can get is that the Salem witch trials really ended, was the end. Um, it had been prevalent in Europe for so many hundreds of years. And when the folks came from England and settled in Salem, they brought that little bit, they brought that with them. And once they murdered the 20 people they murdered at Salem for no reason, anyway, it died down greatly after that. So the Salem witch trials, I think, really were more of the end um, of the witch trials. They have been in Europe since the 1500s, I think,
Well,
and it has
no, they
spread.
weren't nice.
Go ahead.
I said no, they weren't nice to them. I mean, they back then, they burned them and beheaded them, and I guess if you're lucky, you got a quick death. Because hanging wasn't no quick death back then. They put a rope around your neck. You strangled on that thing for 20 minutes.
Well, there's another thing, and this is in the documentaries I've watched, and my notes is they call it the short drop.
Yeah.
And they did that to witches a lot because it wasn't a long enough rope to break their neck. It was a shorter rope. So they were way more apt to strangle.
That
And it's
is
just
a work of
so.
art. Did you know back in? I mean, that was a work of art. For hangman, they got paid so much because
Yes, I know if they were
because
good at it. Yeah.
yeah, because if the rope was too short, you strangled to death. If the rope was too long, they popped your head off. So I mean, it was and even the ones that did the beheading before the guillotine, when they used the axes and the swords and
Yeah.
whatnot,
Very
people would
highly
pay
paid.
them. People would pay them to make sure they got a clean execution.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
I know. Imagine that being the best talent in your life.
Mm.
How to behead people. How horrible. But yeah, they also swam the witches and dunked the witches and which is basically the same thing. And I do know now why you remember like the dunking stool or
Yep.
whatever. And because of course we all know that if you sink and you're innocent and you float and you're guilty, then you're dead either way. But the logic behind it was that if you were saved by Jesus Christ, he would take you into the waters of baptism and take you to heaven. And if you were demonic, the water would spit you out.
Wow.
That's how so, but still, either way, you were screwed, you
Well,
know.
it seems like everything I've read about it it's almost like if you didn't like your neighbor, you accused them of witchcraft and they got executed, so you got rid of your neighbor.
Well,
It's like a convenient way to get rid of the people you didn't like. It seems like to me.
it really was. And it was also, um, but now if you just accused your little old lady neighbor or whatever, and you were prominent in the community and whatever, then you might get away with it. But there was also a big chance once you start accusing that somebody can accuse you back, and then you might be in the same mess. So you had to be pretty predominant in the society. But that's a lot, Steve, of what it was getting rid of the poor folks, the derelict folks, weeding out the like survival of the fittest, or you know what I mean.
Right.
And which is horrible, but that is what a lot of it was. They didn't have any money to defend themselves, and if they were convicted as witches and hung or burned or whatever, the town could take their land.
Yep. Well, it's
How terrible.
it's crazy. And then then they brought it over here. I guess it followed over. I guess it came over with the ship when it came over with the Mayflower or whatever. I guess it came along with them.
Yes, it did. The folks in Salem, I guess, came for religious freedom, but that religious freedom, I don't know. But when it hit everybody in that day and time, the 1500s and 1600s, and everybody was they were scared of the unknown,
Yeah.
which we are today still. But if a comet crashed, we know it was a comet that crashed. They
Right.
didn't. That kind of thing, and it's easy to cause mass hysteria also too, and that's a lot of what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. You get on the subject of like Massachusetts and Salem and all. They were going off the word of little girls. These girls were like 9 and 12 years old. These were very old kids.
Yeah, they were little girls. Yeah.
And
Well, they might have been. They might have been 10, 12. They might have been 12, 13, but they weren't very old. Yeah, 10 to. Yeah. Go ahead.
it seems here they are going up to, if these kids didn't like you, and they threw these fits knowing that they could get rid of you, and
Mm.
they didn't know if they had a disease of some kind. Now a lot of people may say, "Oh, it's supernatural. They were possessed." Whatever. I don't know. I don't think that was the case. I really don't.
I,
Um,
I, I know, I think it's possible, but I really don't think that this
uh,
was the cases at that time.
I, uh,
But if one if one little girl got irked at one other little girl or whatever, and it can just blossom. That's not a good word, but those blossoms are happy, but it can just take off. And um, Salem had, well, I guess probably every town in Europe did too, but Salem had a certain group of men that owned and run the town,
yeah,
and what they said went,
yeah.
you know. And if they ran the church, they ran the court, they ran everything, and depending on what the issue was, and that I've said before, and as if you're getting rid of the poor, the needy, and leaving the better functioning folks in town, then that's pumping up your town. But
Now in Salem, the executions and the trials supposedly went from February of 1692 to May of 1693.
yeah,
So a little over a year,
yeah,
resulted in the execution of 20 people, 14 of them women, but all but one were by hanging. Now that one, I believe, was the guy that was crushed to death with stones.
he if I am correct, he was a sheriff or a something. He wasn't a pastor. I think he was a sheriff or something. I may have here.
Wasn't the sheriff the one that wasn't the
Got
sheriff
pressed.
cursed? I thought the sheriff got cursed and died of a heart attack by one of
Yeah.
the people that they executed.
No. Yep, you're right. I mean, there's something. Dadgummit.
It was an
Yeah,
old man they crushed to
we got it
death.
all going, but we got to get the facts straight. Um, 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 oh, I still don't know if I have all of it straight in my head, but okay. The sheriff, if I remember correctly, the sheriff got pressed with stones. And I don't think he ever admitted he was a witch or whatever. But anyway, he got pressed with stones till he was dead. And before he died, he said every sheriff in the future
Yeah.
would meet an untimely end or something.
Okay.
Now, I might not have all of that straight, but I think I've got it fairly
Hmm.
well what the story was. I do know they pressed him and
Yeah.
killed him.
That's just suffocation. That's an awful way to go.
Good
And they didn't
Lord.
even bury these people in graves or graveyards. They buried them. I don't even know if they even found the graves where they buried these people. They were in the woods somewhere. They weren't even allowed to be buried in the graveyard.
They weren't allowed to be buried. No, and in fact, there are some accounts that they were rolled down a hill. Um, I don't know if it's historically correct or not, but there are accounts that over out in the woods, wherever, there was a good hill that went down to nowhere, and nobody ever went out there. And homeless folks or old poor folks or whatever, when they died, they just take them out and roll them down that hill. And that I think some of the witches may have too, or supposed witches.
Wow.
I don't think any of them were witches.
Wow.
I think if anything, the older women were midwives and herbalists and knew the old folk ways of healing, and medicine was starting to get a little more advanced for that time.
Right.
And men were dominant in it, and men wanted to run the midwives out of business. I think that's a lot of it too.
Well, I know we got one viewer.
Well, goody.
Evidently, Daniel's watching.
Thank you. Hi, how you going? I mean, how you doing?
Daniel been what? Been weak? I don't know. I mess with him about that.
I just say I call him Benoit.
Either this witchcraft thing is crazy because a lot. I think at one point weren't they trying to say it could have been the result of the bread or the wheat going bad in the bread or the rye going bad and causing mass
That
hysteria or
that is even back further in European history and the werewolves and all of those kind of things. It's called, I know what it's called. Anyway, it's when your grain mildews,
right.
and so when you eat it, it gives you hallucinations. And that is a lot of people wonder or discuss that could be a good explanation for witches and werewolves and things of that nature, because if people were hallucinating, then they'd be seeing and saying and doing things
Right.
like they were out of their head. And still God, what is the name of that stuff?
I'll tell you another thing gets me is they used to bring these people in and they would torture them till they confessed to being a witch. You didn't have a choice if you think about it. They had that Duncan tank and the racks and all kinds of barbaric things they used to do to people.
Yeah.
And I mean, what are you going to do if you're being tortured to the point of pain and almost death? Of course, you're going to say something to stop the pain.
Exactly. And even from what I understand, a lot of accused witches were kept in jail and the dungeons of the castles and whatever for years and years and years, and a lot of them died before they ever went to trial.
No.
But yeah, torture was not supposed to be from the Pope and the kings and whatever, the 1600s. In general, torture was not recommended, but there were a large number of folks who went out as witch hunters and went in all of these villages and towns, and the town would pay them to help them figure out who were the witches and get them picked out so they could execute them. And then it ended up that, I don't know, 20, 30, I don't know. But as years passed, the towns figured out that they were paying this dude a good chunk of money to find the witches. Then they had to pay the executioner. They had to figure out what to do with them. It was just added up to be what I read was sometimes a third of the town's money for a year. And after a while, the town started saying, well, why are we paying all this money? You know, and the dude was, and the, I've got his name wrote down here, but I'm sitting in the
That
dark.
fungus is called ergot, ERGOT.
Ergot. That's it, ergot.
Yeah,
Yep.
ergot.
Yep. And this dude went all over England. And he had a permit to do like 2 counties from whoever was in charge, whatever ruler. But he just took his little document and went all over, and everybody accepted it. And he made a freight load of money picking out witches and getting them convicted, and the town would pay him. And there were others like that too, you know.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's amazing how our mindset was back then. You know how
Well, they didn't know.
yeah, that's true. You know, it's all. You know, I mean, I guess if someone had epilepsy and had a grand mal seizure, they would have thought they were being
Exactly.
Possessed by the devil. I mean,
Yep, exactly.
wow.
And they were led by the Catholic Church, which I have nothing against the Catholic Church at all. I'm talking about, hundreds of years ago. And the Catholic Church had a strict set of rules, and you went by the rules. And if somebody didn't and got picked out, then that was just how it was. You hung with the church, whatever they said.
Right. You know, they had things for vampires. They had things for demon possession. They had all kinds of kits they used to travel with.
Oh yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's got to come from somewhere. I mean, the witch trials, but the dogmen, the werewolves, the vampires, or well, and even the witches. There's got to be some basis somewhere. But we have the Wiccan now who just love Earth,
Yep.
and do no harm. I mean, I'm all for that. I like that. But you got to be careful. I wouldn't be playing around with no witch mess. Then or now.
You got to wonder what made those kids do that. Why act that way? I mean, distemper. I've heard so many different stories behind it. And that's true. I even heard it could have been the form of distemper or something. It's really weird. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, and it could have been the Argot, or it could have been, who knows what.
Or just feuds between families.
Well, the story for Salem starts with the little girl who had the house servant, and I know her name. What was her name? I can't remember, but
Yeah, I
she
suffer
had the
from that
house.
same problem.
She had they had a house servant from um Africa or down way down South America somewhere. But with the and I don't know that it was exactly voodoo, but she would get the little girls together or whatever, and they get a glass of water and break an egg in it,
Yeah.
and she look at the egg and tell them who they were gonna marry or whatever. Chichiba, Chichiba was that servant's name, Chichiba, and somewhere after Chichiba and the little girl and her friend or two had kind of played this game a few times or whatever, that's when supposedly one of the little girls started freaking out, and then another, and you know.
Right.
But so who knows? I mean, we can't say one way or the other. I think that it was just a mix up and somebody who didn't like somebody else, and
I used to drive up there twice a week. I had a run in my tractor trailer, went to Boston, and then I went up to. I started in Ipswich, and that and then came through Salem, and that's where all that
yeah,
happened. And they got a monument up there to all these people that were executed.
yeah.
It actually fades into the wall as if their voices just faded off. It's really anything to go see if you haven't seen it. It's
Oh wow! If I ever get that far up north, I will.
really cool.
I'd love to go to Salem.
It's a beautiful little town.
I would love to go. I just not that far north yet, but I'm planning on it. I want to come west too and go see you and Jackie.
Yeah, Northwest. We're up here.
What is the update on the video movie whatnot, or do you not want to talk about
Um, the movie. See, I'm kind of. Well, if we're gonna go off the subject of the witches for a minute, yeah, I did make an announcement. I am filming a movie, and I'm kind of. I don't want people to think because of my research that this has anything. This has nothing to do with the research I do or anything like that. It's
that?
actually going to be a horror movie, and if you, I don't want to give it away, but once you see it, you understand it's not anything to do with people. But I don't want to, ruin it either. But
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
what I want to do is take the local teenagers here. There's not a lot going on here, and use them, and make this movie. And
That would be cool. That would, yeah, that would be something for them to do, keep them out of trouble,
yeah, I mean, it's
something,
going to
something
take a
new,
little while to make
different,
it. So,
interesting. Yeah, that's a great
and
idea.
uh, I've got permission from two bands so far, and they're really good bands to use their music in the movie. So I've got the opening and I've got the closing.
Cool.
Songs already picked out also, and the plot's pretty much done, and all. It's just the camera's gonna cost me a little bit. I'm trying to put some way to get this camera, and other than that, it's gonna be a very low budget thing, but I'm gonna
Well, I
make it. I
know,
want
but
to make it very scary. I want to have it shocking more than gore. So it's going
well,
back old school.
I want you to let me know a month before you plan to start, so because I got pickup trucks with shells on them and minivans, tents, whatever. I can camp out. I want to be in your movie.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
don't.
yeah.
I don't know what. If I just lay there dead, I don't care.
Well, I had it originally set up where you were going to be in it, but we're going to talk to you through this, um, kind of get some information that you would have on it. And, pretty much your part was going to be that your husband and son went missing on a hunting trip up here. So, and then it's going to go from there,
I might could do
and
that.
what you believe happened and what the authorities told you and what you think happened. You know what I mean? It's going to be.
I might could do that because even if I imagine my son missing, I'll damn near cry.
Let's see here. Let's see here. All right, live chat. Do you know of any witches down around the Virginia area or in the South as far as history goes? Yes and
Yep.
no. I can tell you not Virginia, but I can tell you Southern Maryland. If you go down to St. Mary's County, to the courthouse in St. Mary's County, there's a rock out front of the courthouse, and there are actually two handprints in this rock. This is like if somebody took wet cement and put their hands in it. That rock came from Maldire Road, which is named after the witch that lived on at the end of this road in the woods years and years and years ago, named
Yeah.
Maldire. And that's an old St. Mary's legend. But the rock is in front of the courthouse. I've seen it with my own eyes. So, uh, as far as that, yeah, that's not so much Virginia, but that I can tell you about Maryland.
Um, Steve, remember the when we were doing the Lost Colony
Yeah.
and the what was it called? I'm looking in my notes.
Now, witchcraft is very prominent today.
Yes,
It's
it is.
Wiccan. Matter of fact, let me tell you another little thing real quick about witchcraft. A man played the Maryland Mega Millions, and he was actually on a TV show. His name is Funky Bartlett. So I will say his name because it's already he was on that show about winning the lottery anyway. So everybody knows he's done interviews. He is a Wiccan and did a spell, and damn if he didn't hit the Mega Millions because he claims it because he did that spell, but he actually won it after he did that spell.
I years and years ago had a book. I don't know where I acquired it. It was a secondhand store or something. But it was fairly thick little book, and it was Wiccan spells,
Yeah.
and it was if someone you love is in pain, or it was good stuff, and I remember a couple of money making spells in there, but I don't remember all of them. And somebody borrowed my book, never wrote it back.
You can look it up online, pretty much.
I have tried before, but I need to try again.
Yeah.
But I did a spell for my and I'm a Christian.
Oh my.
But I did a thing. It said I had just started dating my husband. Um, 2 or 3 months, and I did this little thing that it said, and the next morning he showed up at my bedroom window, and we were together, hell, 24 years almost now. We've
Wow.
separated, but we're still married. So it kept him with me 20 years.
Ooh. I don't know. I don't guess it's a spell. There is a huge cemetery at the D.C. Maryland line called Cedar Hill, and in
Hmm.
that cemetery is a chair called the wishing chair. A woman's husband, I thought he went to war and died, and she made this big stone chair. I've actually sat in it, and you can go in
Yeah,
there and make a
yeah.
wish. And Jackie and I sat in it together one time, and
I
that
think
was
I saw that picture.
19 years ago. So we're still together. So it's pretty cool.
Um, to the dude that was asking about witches,
Daniel was down in Virginia.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, look up the Cora tree. Cora,
Okay.
Cora tree, and on Hatteras Island. We talked about that before, Steve, and that was a very interesting historical, and the tree's still there.
Well,
Remember the
Daniel's
baby
from
girl?
Massachusetts. He probably knows a little bit about this witch thing too up there.
Yeah, we need to ask Never mind, I'll tell you later to come on the show sometime. So, what else we got to discuss about witches before we go?
I don't
Torture,
know. There was a lot of that. I mean,
stigma.
like I said, that torture was unreal what they did to him. Yeah. And I believe is there a museum up there where they actually still have stuff that they use for torture, like the Duncan tank. They put them on a long end of a long stick in a
Yeah, what?
chair and
Yeah,
strapped them down, and they would fill that tank with water, and they would pull down on the stick, and they come up out of the water and let go, and they go
yeah,
down into it until they about drown and pull them back out.
yeah. They had different ones, but they were all the same type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, just shaped or built a little different.
Then they had these things they put their thumbs in, and they cranked the
Thumb
thing, like
screws.
yeah. Oh my goodness. And then after you went through all that and to confess because of the pain and the agony you were in, then
Yep.
if you were lucky, you got a quick death. But I don't think anybody was that lucky because the
I
hangings were choking to death. You got burned alive at the stake, or I think they were all hanged. I don't know if they used to burn them then.
no,
But
they
back in Europe, they did.
they burned them too.
I mean, that's
Um,
crazy.
but in Europe, um, I've seen in some of my research that sometimes in Europe they would I forgot what they called it, but kind of gut them
Oh, they did that. That they would. There was
and
a thing.
then burn them
They were what they
so
call it.
that they would
Quarter them. They
die.
would.
They would,
Yeah,
like
disembowel.
maybe not pull the guts out, but
No, it was disemboweling them. Yeah,
yeah, split them down the
yeah,
middle
yeah. You'd be
so they would
disemboweled
die
and
quicker,
quartered, and
and then they
yep.
would burn them.
They
Now,
also did that and then hung them,
yeah,
and everything would just spill out. I mean,
yeah,
they had some gross, awful ways of killing people
God
back then.
Almighty, yes. And another thing that I had heard of things similar, but not exactly put this way. In the early days in Europe of the witch trials and torture, they would wrap, excuse me, heavy straps around the top of their head, and
Mm.
then two men would pull from each side and squeeze their head. They also use sleep deprivation, um, starving, walking. They would walk people. Um, there are stories of the men in the village or the witch hunters or whoever. Anyway, the ones in the village believing it was a witch and wanting to persecute the witch, and their wives. Gosh, excuse me. Their wives would all go and walk the woman
Mm.
that was the accused witch, and they would walk her, and then they'd take, so it'd be like 5 or 6 women from the village, and one would walk 2 or 3 hours, switch off, and they would walk them until their feet bled. Not let them sleep, walk them.
Then they had that thing in the town there. They would put you in that wooden thing and put your hands in your head in and clamp you down in that. Yeah,
The
the
stock.
stocks. Yeah. And
And
people come by and throw things at you.
yeah, people come by and throw rotten potatoes and whatever, rocks and whatever at you.
Mm.
But I'm not going to say we need that back again at all. But it did deter crime to some extent.
Yeah.
I think, you know. Um, but what did these people have to do, Steve? They didn't have television, radio, a computer.
Back then they went to church.
They had books, but they didn't hardly have lights to read by. They were nothing but too hot, too cold, eating meat that was burnt or raw. Heck, the royals live like crap compared to what we do. Think about what the poor people, how they lived. It was a rough time.
Man.
What you come up with?
I was looking something. I just
Oh, you weren't even on the subject.
yeah, I am. I was looking up something. No. Jackie said dead ass. Um, I'm learning about the curses. You know, didn't we talk about the Bell Witch one time?
Yes, we did. I think we did a show on the Bell Witch,
Yeah.
which is right over across North Carolina line in Tennessee. They come from North Carolina and moved to Tennessee, and but when they got in Tennessee was when the problem started.
You know, a lot of people said that was demonic possession, but I have to wonder about that too.
Well, they also said poltergeist, witch's curse, voodoo, and who knows exactly, but and then there's also, if you've watched, there was a short series on the Bell Witch. There's about 5 episodes
Yeah.
where a dude that is a direct descendant um went and searched and got psychics and talked to the historians in town and all of that. And there's a whole lot more to it. They have found out now, but you still, who knows exactly what happened. I think one thing a witch can do, or no, not even a witch, I could do it myself. If I talk ugly enough and threaten somebody enough that I'm going to put a spell on them and their life's going to be crap or whatever.
Yeah.
So, there are some people that you can scare into believing it, and you don't have to do a thing. They'll scare themselves into
Yep.
trouble.
And let's stay on this subject of witchcraft. Let's for a future show, we can even get into the witchcraft of what was down in Louisiana, down in the south, which was
Yeah,
uh, voodoo. You know, that'd be an awesome show to do. You know, talk about voodoo and
yeah,
um,
and they have uh Sasquatch down there too.
that's a lot of there's a lot of different forms of witchcraft, and It's amazing how much of it's still around today.
Voodoo dolls.
Well, what about the next show? What would you like to do the next show?
Hmm, hmm, hmm. I've been thinking about it a lot, but then I forgot. I'm so my mind is so tired from that long week last week.
Oh,
But
I bet it is.
um, I don't know.
Tell you what, let's we're gonna do
Let's
this. With this show, we're gonna do every 2 weeks, just so it doesn't burn us out.
there you
So,
go.
and in 2 weeks from now, let's do a show about black eyed kids.
Oh, yeah, I know a little about that.
Cool.
I don't know a lot, but I know a little. I know enough to be scared.
Well, 2 weeks from now, we'll get back together and talk about black eyed kids.
Cool, cool. All right. Well, I hope
Yeah.
that somebody got something out of this show.
I don't know. It was good talk, you know. I mean,
Oh yeah, I always love talking to you.
you have anything that you want to bring up before we go?
Mm, I don't think so. Just if y'all want, if anybody wants to go and watch this documentary that I have watched, it's on Netflix, and it's called "Witches: 100 Years of Murder,"
Cool.
and it's really interesting if you're into that kind of thing. Other than that, thanks for watching. Take care. God bless you.
The only thing I want to do is I have another show I do called Horse Talk with Shaky Jr. That's every Saturday night, and depending on my guests, whether they're on the East Coast or West Coast, could be from 7 to 9. But I do post the links for that, and I
It's a
do
good show.
co-host a
Check
radio
it out.
show with Daniel Benoit called Watch Talk Radio on Blog Talk Radio, and that's usually on Friday nights at 10. Not every Friday night, but what we have is Friday nights at 10. Look out for the links for that and post for that. Other than that, I really appreciate everybody that watches this, and we'll see you in 2 weeks when we talk about the black eyed children. Y'all have a
Cool.
great night, and God bless y'all.
God bless you. Bye.